Did you know that Java powers over 9 million developers worldwide? It's the backbone of everything from Android apps to large-scale financial systems, thanks to its reliability and scalability. But here's the thing, no matter how well you code, things can do go wrong, right? Maybe a file doesn't exist, the user enters invalid input, or the network decides to take a nap. So that's where Java exception handling comes to the rescue. It's like a safety net for your program, like catching errors before they cause a crash. Exception handling helps you manage these issues gracefully, keeping your application stable and ensuring a seamless experience for your users. So let's dive in and see how it all works. Now before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to never miss any update. So in this video on exception handling in Java, we will understand.
So, what are exceptions? Exceptions are unexpected events that disrupt the normal flow of a program. Imagine you're driving a car and suddenly you hit a pothole. That's an exception. In programming, exception occurs when something goes wrong during the execution of your code, like dividing by zero or trying to access a file that doesn't exist. Exceptions are Java's way of handling errors. Think of them as Java's way of saying, hey, something went wrong here, and I'm letting you know about it so you can fix it. Instead of letting your program crash outright when it encounters a problem, Java creates something called an exception object. This object acts like a detailed report about the error. It contains information such as what went wrong, where it happened, and the details about the error. All right. So, to understand it in a better way, let's do a simple example. All right. So, here we will do a simple example to understand this exception. So, here we will be using some try and catch block also, which we will, understand in the further tutorial. But as of now, to just let you know, guys, understand what is exception, let's do a simple example of it. All right. First of all, we'll have to name it. Let's change the name of this file. Let's rename it. All right. So what should we name it? Let's name it exception example. All right. Class name and the file name should be same. All right. Exception example, we'll name it. And now we will create the same only. All right. So here, let's name the class name as exception example. All right. Now there's a main function, as we can see. All right. Now inside this main function, we will be first of all declaring some variables. All right. Let's name it as numerator and we'll assign it a value of 10. Then denominator, here we will assign it as 0 because we want to raise an exception. All right. Now we will try to divide both of these. Now we know we can't divide 10 by 0 because it will give us infinity, which is not correct. The program will show an error, right? For that only, we will be using try and catch blocks that we will be discussing further. For as of now, I can just let you know about try and catch block. So just to let you know, the try block is the one that, contains the code that might throw an exception. All right. So in try block, we will be dividing both of these. Now in the catch block, basically it handles the exception. All right. For now, just keep in mind the try block is what I just said, and catch block is just handle the exception. All right. Now let's try to make the try and catch block. So the keyword try, and inside it we will be using a variable result, and inside this variable we will be dividing numerator by denominator. Numerator is 10 and denominator is 0. All right. So we know that we can't divide 10 by 0. It will show an exception. So basically we know that this line will throw an error, right? This line will throw an error. I've just mentioned in the comment that this line will throw an error. We know it. All right. Now, after this, we will be, we want to just print something. All right. System.out.println. All right. Now, let's just write result of division. All right. So this is what we want to print. Now to catch the exception, catch catch. This is the keyword, and inside it, it is arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. I hope you guys are not understanding few parts over here, but this example is for you to just know what is an exception and how we can handle that. All right. So don't worry, we will cover all these things later in this tutorial. All right. So this is arithmetic exception. Here we'll mention E. This is a syntax basically. All right. Now, in the catch block, as I told you, it handles the exception, right? So we'll display a message saying that, what should we display? Mm, let's display, oops, something went wrong. All right. This is the message that we want to display whenever we encounter an exception. That will obviously arise because we are dividing 10 by 0, right? So when it will be divided by 10 by 0 over here, this catch block will catch the exception and will display this particular message. So this is how it basically works. All right. Now we'll just print something outside this also. Now we'll display, no, inside the catch block itself. If I want, let it just display afterwards. I want to display over here only. All right. So let me display another thing. Let us display, yeah, error. All right. And over here, I will write e dot get message. Now, I'll be explaining to you what is e dot get message, but as of now, just keep in mind this e dot get message is an important part. Now, basically, if I'll tell you, this will print the error message. All right. I'll just mention in the comment, print the error. All right. Just let me explain to you guys. Just a second, print the error message. Yeah. Now, the thing is, the role of a e dot get message over here, I know you might be confused why we have wrote this. So the role of it was like when an arithmetic exception is thrown, it contains a message that describes the error, right? This is the arithmetic exception. It contains the message that describes the error. Now, the e dot get message is called on the exception object e to retrieve that object. All right. So the e dot get message, again, I'm telling, the e dot get message method is called on the exception object e to retrieve this message. All right. Now, I believe you guys have an idea. Now, after this, we can do one more thing. Let's just print something else as well. All right. So, and after the catch block also we'll print something. System.out.println. Now here we will be displaying something. What should we display? You cannot divide by 0, right? So let's just display that thing so that a person can understand what he cannot do. What he's doing right now. You cannot divide a number by 0. All right, so this is what we want to print in the catch block whenever the program, an exception it depicts, it follows an exception, that this is what we want to display, all these things, right? Now, this particular part will handle it. It will print a message regarding that. Now, after this also, if we want to display something, then we can do that. System.out.println. Now, inside it, for example, I want to display program continues to run after handling the exception, because this line will still execute because execution was handled. All right. So this particular line that I'm going to display, I'm going to write, this particular line will execute because the exception was handled, right? So I just want to write program continues to run, sorry, my bad, run after handling the exception. So basically it will tell us that the error has been handled, the exception has been handled, right? So this will show us that it is being handled. All right. Now I believe you guys have an idea about what exceptions are, right? All right. Now let's try to run this. I hope it works. It's still compiling. What's wrong? Connection server is lost. All right. I believe there is some error. Public class exception example. So it is showing should be declared a file name exception example. And all right. So my file name is different. I believe I have, okay, I have reloaded. So that maybe that's why it is showing, because we named it exception example, I believe. All right. Now let's try to run it. Out. All right. So at line 25, we have some error. All right. This is dot. We forgot to put dot. So, all right. So as we can see, oops, something went wrong. So we are dividing 10 by 0. So obviously try will, arise and or throw an error. Now this is being caught by the catch block. So the catch block displays a method saying oops, something went wrong, right? As we displayed. After that, error, e dot get message. So it is showing error. Now e dot get message is displaying divide by 0, right? It is printing the error message. All right. That's what we want to, tell them. So it basically handles it and display what we want to display. Now you cannot divide the number by 0 that we have mentioned over here, right? And after the, the exception is handled, the program continues to run after handling the exception. That this is what we want to display after it handles. So it is up to you if you want to display it. It is, I have just used it because to show you guys how it works. All right. Now I believe you understood what is exception, and maybe if you don't understood some terms like try and catch, so we will definitely in further in this tutorial we will cover that, so you don't need to worry about it. It is very simple, you just need to focus. All right. Now let's understand why do we need exception handling, right? So this is what we did, but we now need to understand why do we really need it. Okay. All right. So why do we need exception handling? So without exception handling, any error would crash your entire program. That's frustrating for users and makes your software unreliable. So exception handling allows you to recover from errors gracefully. Instead of crashing your program, you can guide the user or retry an operation, right? The second one is debug effectively. Exceptions provide you detailed error messages, helping you identify the root cause of issue, which is very important. Third one is keep programs running. A well handled error ensures your application doesn't stop unexpectedly. All right. So these were just the three of it that we just discussed, but there are many more. All right. But these are the main things that we, why we need an exception handling. All right. Now that we have understood why do we need the exception handling, so let's have a look at what are common types of exceptions. Okay. So some of the common types of exceptions include, first, arithmetic exception. Now it happens when you try something like dividing by zero. So as we have just did an example. So when we try to divide a number by zero, something like that, the arithmetic exception occurs. Now the second one is null pointer exception. So it occurs when you try to use an object that hasn't been initialized. All right. The third one is array index out of bound exception. So this particular error will or exception is triggered when you access an index outside the boundaries of an array. All right. Now the fourth one is class not found exception. So this particular exception occurs when Java can't find a required class. It is pretty much clear. I believe it is very straight away. You can just get to know about the exception by just their name. So these are just an example, few examples, but there are many more. Each exception has a specific purpose, making it easier to understand what went wrong. All right. Now let's discuss the checked exceptions first. So checked exceptions are errors that Java knows might happen and checks for at compile time. The compiler won't let your program run unless you either, right? So it handles them using a try catch block or declare them using the throws keyword in the method. All right. Now, these exceptions usually occur when your program interacts with external resources like files, for example. A file you're trying to open might not exist. It will throw an input output exception, that is IO exception. A database, your query might fail, that SQL exception. All right. Now, Java requires you to handle checked exceptions because they represent potential issues that can be anticipated and managed. All right. So, this was about the checked exceptions. Now, let's understand unchecked exceptions. So, unchecked exceptions, on the other hand, are not checked by compiler. This means you are not required to handle them using try catch or declare them using throws. These exceptions are typically caused by programming mistakes or logical errors in your code. Things that are within your control to avoid but might still happen if you're not careful. All right. Some of the common examples include the null pointer exception. So this exception basically, is arised when you're trying to access a method or property on a null object, right? Then array index out of bound exception. You're trying to access an array element that doesn't exist. All right. Then arithmetic exception, as we discussed, dividing a number by zero. So these were the few examples of unchecked exceptions. Now the thing is that we discuss an example, and some of you guys might not understand try and catch block, although it is very easy. But just let me go through it again. So the try catch block, right? The try and catch blocks are used to handle exceptions. All right. The try block contains the code that might throw an exception. All right. So as you guys have noticed, we put the code of dividing 10 by 0 inside the try block, right? Because we know that it might throw an exception. So the code that might throw an exception, we put it inside the try block, right? Now the catch block handles the exception if it occurs. And if it is not, then no worries. Now, as in the example that we just did, in that particular example, In the catch block, we just wrote the code what to, display or what to do when that particular exception occurs. All right. So catch is the one who handles it, and try is the one that contains it. Okay. Now, so that you guys understood in a better way, let me show a fine syntax of it so that you can understand and have a look at it with your own eyes. Try block is there, as you can see, int result 10 divided by 0, and we know 10 divided by 0, the program will throw an error, although we know it is an infinity. Now in the catch block, arithmetic exception is there, e is there. All right, we just did an example of it. Now you can't divide by 0, so basically whenever this will happen, this particular message will be displayed. So it's for the syntax purposes. All right, now if you want to do an example, let's do another example. All right, so here we'll be using an array and we'll do something with that. All right, so let's do it. All right, so we are back on the compiler. Let's rename it again. So this time we want to name the class as, let's say, try catch, because we are just telling you about try catch block. Try catch example. All right, so let's name it this way. Now, first of all, the class name, public class try catch example. All right, now inside it we will be creating a main function, public static void main. All right, now inside this main we will be creating try and catch blocks. All right, so for example, here we'll take an array, and that particular array has 3 or 4 elements, but we want to access the fifth or sixth or seventh element which is not there, right? So obviously it will throw an error because those elements are not there. So to handle that exception, we'll use catch block and display something. I hope you guys understood, and if not, so let's understand it now. Int, no, first of all we'll create a try catch block. The try block is there. Inside the try block we will be creating an array. All right, int, let's say numbers. Now inside this array, let's name it 1, 2 and 3. Simple. All right, so these are the elements of this array, 1, 2 and 3. Now let's print something, system.out.println. Here numbers, but we want to access an element which is not over here. For example, we know that this is the 0th index, this is the first index, and this is the second index, although the name of the digits of the elements are different, but we know the 0th index, first index and the second index, only 3 indexes are there, right? But let's say if I want to access the fifth or sixth index element, so we know we basically 5 here means the fifth index element, but here we have only three indexes, 0, 1 and 2. So how can we access that? So it will definitely throw or cause an exception. So this particular exception we'll handle now. All right, so basically let me write it for you guys. Trying to access an index that doesn't exist in this array. All right, so that you guys can understand. Now this is the try block, right? Now after this try block we'll be creating a catch block. Inside the catch block we will, all right, so yeah, we will mention array index out of bound exception, because we know index out of bound exception from the name itself, you'll get to know array index out of bound exception. All right, so after this we know what we usually do. Okay, yeah, now here we will be handling the exception. So system.out.println. So what do we want to display? A message saying error. Now inside it, you're trying to access. No, we'll just simply display it. What is happening? Yeah, you are trying to access an invalid. Yeah, an invalid array index that is not there. Simple as that. So that the person can understand it. Simply we'll write it so that the person can understand it in a better way. This is the catch block. That's it. Now after this, if we want to write something, it's up to us. System.out.println. Now program continues after this also. So let's just write that program continues after handling the exception. All right then, I hope you guys understand. Now let's try to run it. Okay, so as you can see, as you are trying to access an invalid array index, don't mind the spelling, I just What's wrong? Yeah. You're trying to access an invalid array index. So this is the, error that we want to display when this particular exception occurred. All right. Normally, if you'll run this program and don't use the try and catch block, it will throw an error, right? But to handle it, we use the catch block, and inside the catch block, we just display this message. So whenever this encounters, it will throw an exception over here. It will handle it and display this particular message. Simple as that. And after that, as we know that this is the code that we have wrote after the try and catch block, so it will because the exception is being handled, all right. So obviously, this particular code will run. It will not disrupt the flow. So that is why we can see program continues after handling the exception. But if the case is there that we haven't used try and catch block and then also we want to display this particular message, then it won't happen because the exception is not being handled because we haven't used try and catch block. But here we have used try and catch block, then only that is why only it is being displayed. All right. Okay, so this was about try and catch block example. Now let's move on to the next part of this tutorial, which is Java finally. Alright, the finally block is used to execute code no matter what happens. Whether or not an exception is thrown, it is typically used for cleanup operations like closing files or releasing resources. Using the finally block is considered a good practice because it allows you to include essential cleanup code. This ensures that critical code that might be unintentionally skipped due to return, continue, or break statements is executed. And resources such as files or connections are properly closed. So basically, the cleanup purposes it is used. The finally block. All right. So it's if I have to show you a syntax of it, it's very simple. Like as you can see on the screen, try block is there, catch block is there, and finally is there. So basically, as you can see, try and catch block, you know the syntax, right? And we just did this example where we, try to access the fifth index element, but only two indexes there. So something went wrong, as we can see on the syntax. It is being printed, and then finally is there. It is saying this will always run no matter what, which is basically what is the functionality of finally. It is used for the cleanup purposes, and no matter what, it will run, even if the error occurs. Then also the finally block runs to ensure essential actions are performed. Even if it is handled, then it will definitely do. It will definitely run. But even if the error is there, then also it will run. All right. I hope you guys understand. No syntax, different syntax is there. You just have to use the finally block as we can see on the screen. And then whatever code or something you want to print, just type it or just do that particular code. For example, if you want to handle some, something corrections or something cleanup code you want to handle, then that particular code you just, type in the finally block. That for that it is used. All right. Now coming to the next topic, which is Java throw keyword. So the throw keyword is used when you want to create an exception intentionally. All right. Intentionally, the word is here. Now, for example, if a user enters a invalid data, you can throw an exception to indicate the issue. All right. So this is the exception that you only will arise. For example, let's say a user enters the wrong data. So to let him know, you can throw an exception and indicate that particular person key that is this is the error that is you're doing wrong. For example, you're typing the wrong password or you're typing something wrong. All right. And if you're not eligible, you're not 18 plus for that. All right. So sample is there, as you can see. Public void check age int age is passed, and if age is less than 18, then you can throw the error. Throw is the keyword. New, then there is illegal argument exception. This is the exception of this particular. All right. Inside this, you are raising an exception. Age must be 18 or older. So this is how you can throw an exception. For example, if I'm 17, I can't, this particular message will be displayed. Age must be 18 or older. If I'm 19 or 20, then this message will not be displayed. All right. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say. Here, if the age is less than 18 in this particular sample example, the program throws an exception with a custom message. This is the custom message that we just wrote. All right. Now, if you want to have a look at it, so let's do an example of this as well. All right. All right. So now time to rename it again. This time we'll name it through example because we are doing that particular thing only. Through example. Okay. Yeah. Let's just remove this code. All right. So public class through example. Just a second. All right. Static void main. As we know, inside it we can start with a static void main also. But yeah, let's write other examples first. Right. Let me just remove this one. All right, so yeah, let's create some functions first. Validate age, where we will be passing the, here we will be passing the age from the main functions. All right, so let me just write some code inside it, and where we will be throwing the error. Throw new legal argument exception, as you can see, illegal argument exception error with a capital E. Error is saying age must be 18 or above, right? Simple as that. Age must be 18 or above. Now, this is the thing that here we want to do. Like above it, we have to use a filter, right? If age, just a second, age is less than 18, then only we want to display this particular message. Okay. So this is the condition. If age is less than 18, then only we want to display this particular message. Age must be 18 or above. All right. Now in else block, simply system dot out dot println. Here we want to display, if the person is 18 or older, then we'll display welcome with an exclamation sign. You are eligible. All right. I hope you guys are understanding what we are doing over here. If age is less than 18, we'll throw this exception. But if it is, older than that, that particular person is older than 18, then this particular message will be displayed. Welcome, you are eligible. All right. Now, this was about the method or function that we just wrote. Now, coming to the main function, public static void main. Inside the main function, again, we will be using try and catch block. So let me just use it. So here we are calling that particular function, that is validate age, and we are passing the age as 15, let's say, right? Let me write passing the invalid age, all right, so that you guys can understand. Now in the catch block, first of all, we'll have to write this particular exception. Let me just copy and paste it. All right, E is there. Now system dot out dot println, here E dot get message. All right, so E dot get message, here basically we are handling it, handling the thrown exception. All right, now after this catch block, what we are going to do, we are simply going to display a message program continues. This time we'll not type the whole, we'll just write program continues. All right, now I hope this particular program runs. All right, so now let's try to run this. I hope it works. So it is throwing some error. Public class throwable example should be declared in a file name. Yeah, so again we have to change. We changed actually. I don't know what's wrong. So the class name and the file name should be same. So that is why it is showing some this error. So let's change the file name as throw example, which is the name of the class. All right. I hope now it will work. So as you can see, a message is showing that error age must be 18 or above to register. All right, and the second message is this one, program continues after exception handling. So we know that this is the code that will run if the error is handled. So it is just showing, it is the validation which tells that the exception is being handled. All right, it is just for that. Other than that, as you can see on the screen, that what we just did, we wanted to print this message when particular age of a person is less than 18. So we have put the condition if age is less than 18, and we know that in the validate age function we are passing the age as 15. All right, so age will go here, it will check if age is less than 18, and yes, the age is less than 18, so it will throw this error, age must be 18 or above to register. So and that's how all the other things will work. So for those who didn't understand, let me explain again. The validate age is a function that checks if the age is less than 18. All right, this is a function validate age, it checks if the age is less than 18, and if the age is invalid, that is less than 18, the method throws an illegal argument exception. All right, with a custom error message. This is our custom error message. All right, now in the main method, where is the main method, here is the main method. Now in the main method we call validate age, and we are passing 15, which triggers the exception because age should be 18 or greater than 18. If age is less than 18, it will trigger it. So this when we pass 15, it triggers the exception. And the catch block here, as you can see, the catch block over here, is it basically the catch block, catches the exception and displays the error message, preventing the program from crashing. And as we know that it handles the program from crashing, that is why this particular message is being displayed. All right. So this is how it goes, and you can see the output over here. So it is working fine. All right. I hope you understand this example, and I want you to try this example so that you can also, you will understand it in a better way then. All right. For now, let's move on to the next topic that we want to cover, which is custom exception in Java. All right. So custom exception in Java. Sometimes the built-in exceptions provided by Java aren't enough to describe the specific errors your application might encounter, right? So in such cases, you can create your own custom exceptions, all right? So these allow you to define errors that are meaningful and specific to your program, making your code easier to debug and maintain, all right? So these custom, from the name itself, we are getting to know custom exception. So custom is that is, created by you or us. So basically they allow you to define the errors that are meaningful and, to instruct basically, so that it will be easier for you to debug in the long run. So to create a custom exception in Java, create a new class, and that extends the exception class, right? Or runtime exception if you want an unchecked exception. Now add a constructor that takes a message or other data and passes it to the parent class using super. So to create a custom exception you have to go through this. Now to make you guys understand it in a better way, let me do a fine example in which we will be creating a custom exceptions. Now let's do it, all right, so that you can also understand in a better way. All right, so let's remove this now. Yeah, so here also we'll be naming this particular file name, and according to that only we'll be making a custom exception, or we can just let it be like this only. Let's keep it main itself. All right, we don't need to change it. Let's keep it main. All right, so yeah, all right. Now, first of all, we will be creating a class and which extends the exception. So basically, this program first creates a special type of error called my custom exception, which is based on Java's exception class. All right. So inside this, we will be then creating try block and then catch block, and then using this particular class that we will be creating now. So we will be creating a custom exception class, you know and in Java you can create your own exceptions by extending the built-in exception class that we just gonna do. Class my custom exception extends exception. All right. Now as I just told you, in Java you can create your own exceptions by extending the built-in exception class. So here my custom exception, as you can see, it should be capital. So so here my custom exception, this particular thing is a new type of exception that we are defining. All right. The my custom exception class has, it will have a constructor of the parent class. So let me just write it first so that then I'll be explaining to you. All right. So first of all, let's create this particular class. So inside this, what we're gonna do? Yeah. So public my custom exception string message, and then super message is a super class. Basically, it is used to pass the message to the exception class. All right. It is used to pass the message to the exception class. Let me just write it for you guys. Passing the message to the exception class. All right. I've just wrote the comment so that you can also understand. So here, public class main, the main class is here, main with a capital M. Yeah, not this one. All right. Now public static void main. All right. So now inside the main, so this is a main class and this is the main function. Now inside the main function, we will be creating try and catch blocks. Now the try block, as we know, is used to enclose the code that might throw an exception, right? So here we will explicitly, throw an instance of a custom exception using the throw keyword. All right. Let me just write it for you guys. Don't worry, guys, if you're still not understanding it, I will again explain to you after, completing this code. But if you guys are understanding as I'm doing it, so it is well and good. All right. Just a second. Yeah. So inside try, we will write throw new my custom exception. Yeah, it will throw it, and the message will be this is a custom exception. So you can write whatever you want. I'm just writing this is a custom exception. All right, let's use exclamation sign. Okay, so yeah, this is the try block. After try block, we know what we usually do, that is the catch block. So here it will handle it, exception, my custom exception E. So here it will take it or catch it. Here we will be printing something, system.out.println. Inside it, we'll first of all display a message saying caught the exception and e dot get message. All right. So yeah, pretty much about it. So now, as you can see, this is the try block. All right. So the try block, as we know, is used to enclose the code that we know that it might throw an error. Now here we are explicitly throwing an instance of our custom exception class. I repeat, of our custom exception using the throw keyword. The new custom exception, this as you can see, the new custom exception, the new my custom exception here is this is a custom exception part creates this particular part I'm talking about. This particular part. So this particular part creates a new object of our custom exception and passes the message. This is a custom exception to it. All right. Then comes the catch block. So basically the catch block, we know what it does. The catch block is used to handle the exception if it is thrown. So here we are catching exceptions of the type my custom exception. All right. The E is a variable. The E is a variable that holds the exception object. Now inside the catch block, we print the message associated with the exception using e.getMessage. This retrieves the message we passed when creating the exception. All right. This is a custom exception. This will retrieve the message that we passed when creating the exception. When creating the exception, this is the message that we passed. So it will retrieve that. This particular thing will retrieve this particular message. All right. And talking about this part, if you're not understanding this part again, so we did nothing. This is a custom exception. This is how you create a custom exception. Now, basically, this is a custom exception class, right? Now, in Java, you can create your own exceptions by extending the built-in exception. As I already told you, this is a built-in exception class. You can create your own exception by extending the built-in exception class. So here, by my custom exception, as you can see, it is a new type of exception that we are defining. All right. This is what we are defining. So this particular class has a constructor that takes a string parameter called message. As you can see, string parameter message of the data type string. Simple as that. All right. Now the name of the parameter is message. Now the here we can see super message, and I just wrote passing the message to the exception class. So what it is doing, this particular thing, this particular line calls the constructor of the parent exception and passes the message to it. This allows the exception to store a custom error message. All right. I hope you guys now understand what I'm doing. Now, just go through this example one more time if you're not understanding it, and then try it yourself. So, this is how basically you create your own custom exceptions. And this was pretty much about the custom exception in Java. And I want you guys to practice all these examples by yourself so that you can also understand and, in a practical way. If you don't do all these examples that I'm just doing on the screen, so it will be of no use. Just reading the theory will not gonna help you. You have to do examples only by your hand only, then only you will get to know. So what we are doing, so we forgot to run it. Let's run it. So as you can see, caught the exception, this is a custom exception. All right. So this is what we want to print. This is a custom exception, this particular message. All right. So caught the exception is from there, and e.getMessage is retrieving this particular message. So it is being printed like this. Caught the exception, and this is a custom exception. I hope you guys now understand how to, create your own custom exception.
So that was about custom exception in Java. Now also, if you want to become a cloud professional and advance your career in one of the fastest growing fields, the professional certificate program in cloud computing and DevOps is for you. This online program is designed for working professionals, providing practical skills and knowledge needed for cloud and DevOps roles. You can opt for additional AWS or Azure exam preparation for an extra fee. Whether you're starting fresh or leveling up, this program will help you take your career to the next level in cloud computing and DevOps. So don't wait, click the course link in the description to learn more. So by understanding what exceptions are and why they occur, we can write more robust and reliable code. We explored the importance of exception handling, which helps in preventing crashes and also helps in maintaining program flow and debugging errors. We also covered common types of exceptions from runtime errors to checked exceptions and how to handle them using the try and catch blocks. Additionally, we discussed the finally block, which ensures important cleanup tasks always run, even if an exception occurs. We then understood how to raise custom exceptions, all of it with hands-on example. Now, I want you to try all these examples on your own. And if you have got any questions, drop them in the comments and we will be happy to help. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more technical content.